Our special guest today is Dr. Walter Williams, a nationally syndicated columnist and professor of economics at George Mason University. And our host and resident expert is the chairman of the National Endowment for Liberty, Ron Paul. Ron, there seems to be a lot of anger in those people.
Boy, I don't think there's any doubt about it. And from my experience traveling around the country, I have met a lot of angry people, a lot of people who are very upset. They're upset with the taxes they pay. They're upset with the Internal Revenue Service. They're upset with the tactics. And I'm just wondering whether, from your experience, Dr. Williams, whether you've come across this same situation.
I've come across the same thing, but it really gives a lot of meaning to what Benjamin Franklin said after he left the convention, the Constitutional Convention in 1787. He said, when the people find that they can vote themselves money, that will herald the end of the republic. Now, what I mean by that is that, of course, there's a need for government. Of course, there's a need for taxes. But government should be doing those kind of things that are legitimate functions of government, namely protecting you and I from international thugs taking our property, from domestic thugs taking our property, and maybe it should be involved with the adjudication of disputes. But government has gone beyond its legitimate functions. It has engaged in immoral behavior, namely 2/3 of our budget represents acts where the government confiscates the property of one American and gives it to another American to whom it does not belong. And this is why we can't but avoid such a horrendous tax system that we have now.
No, Frank Chatteroff wrote that we had two revolutions in this country. One, our original revolution, which was opposed to high taxation. And he said the other revolution literally occurred in 1913 with the institution of the income tax. Do you think that's significant?
Yes, I do. Matter of fact, I think that the 1913 amendment it's typical of what Congress does to us. They start out small and then they get very, very big. Matter of fact, I think the withholding tax was only to be a temporary tax, the so-called victory tax during World War II. And I think that surely the tax code, making the tax code a part of the Constitution, was a very, very significant change. It was a revolution that confiscates private property. It makes us serfs in our own country.
That is right, and it seems like one feeds on itself. Government was not huge in 1913 and 1914, but once we as a people endorsed this concept that government could take this revenue, it seems like the politicians had no problems in figuring out what type of largesse they could pass out, and it looked like the people were rather receptive. So is the basic problem a problem with the politicians, or is the basic problem with the American people who are saying, you know, we want more things?
It's the problem with the American people. That is, first of all, the IRS is doing what Congress wants the IRS to do. Congressmen are doing what voters send them to Washington to do. That is, congressmen and senators are voted into office because they promise their constituents that they will use the power of their office to confiscate the property of one American and bring it back to them, either in terms of aid to higher education, highway funds, catastrophic health care, and all kinds of programs. So it's a congressman running on a platform of not doing that. That is, if he said to his constituents, I'm not going to use my office to bring you back money, somebody else's money, he would not get elected to office. So it's we, the people, who are to blame. That is, each of us think that our particular program is very, very important, but everybody thinks that their particular program is important. And if Congress does what we all want it to do, we're going to wind up with something that nobody wants. And the people on the show showed that the thing that we're winding up that nobody wants is an oppressive IRS.
On occasion, I've taken the position, quite frankly, I don't believe we need the income tax, and we don't need the Internal Revenue Service. But as an economist, what's your reaction? Do you think that we would get into economic problems if the government wasn't there to do certain things to benefit the economy, or could we make it without that tax?
Oh my goodness! I don't have to really give an answer to that question. That is, we have existed as a nation from 1776 up until 1913 without an income tax. And we became the most powerful and richest nation on the face of the earth during that period. So obviously it was not necessary. Many things that government's doing now, not necessarily. You know, if you look at the problems of the homeless Well, we've been a nation from 1776, 174 years up until we had HUD was put into office, and there weren't homeless people. Now, all of a sudden, as a result of HUD, now we have homeless people. If you look at area after area where government has intruded, the problem has become worse rather than better.
Well, the liberal would come back and say, you're unconcerned. You don't care about poor people. You don't want to help people with houses, and you don't think we should tax people and put money into HUD?
Well, if I were a poor person today concerned with housing, I would pray to God that HUD would be abolished. That is
Totally and completely.
totally and completely. That is, HUD has in fact destroyed far more housing than it has created. But getting back to the issue of the program is that we have big government. And in order to finance big government, you're going to have oppressive taxes. And what Americans have to ask from their government is to have less government. Let me be free to keep my own paycheck. Let the people find their own solutions to their own problems.